Greetings and salutations. I hope this video finds you well. I certainly do appreciate you checking it out. It is a very early Saturday morning, December the 7th, 2019. And I just woke up a little while ago and I was going through my email and got a notification that I had a comment on YouTube. And this comment was so typical of hundreds that I have received over the years that it got me thinking that, I really ought to sit down and do a video about this. I have covered a lot of these concepts in past videos, but we're going to put it all in one place. And this is in the form of me just kind of rambling on for a bit. There won't be too much to see on the screen other than text, so if you are one of those who likes to listen while you do other things, be my guest. I will read to you any text that pops up. Now, for those of you who are new to the channel and don't know who I am, I have this little project called EzeeLinux that I have been doing for many, many years, and it is my way of contributing to the Linux community. I am trying to help people get started with Linux who want to use it on their desktop at home. These are not people who are nerds necessarily, or they know how to program, or just not those kind of people, just somebody who wants to use the computer. Linux Mint, Ubuntu, that's what we talk about here. They're easy distributions to learn how to use. And generally, I've had a lot of success. I have helped so many thousands of people that I've lost count. I have no idea. But there is a subset that are very hard to work with and very hard to teach. And those are what I call the Windows power users. These are folks that have been using computers since DOS 1, and they know everything there is to know about Windows and how to get it to do what they want it to do, but they want to learn how to do Linux. The problem is that they come into Linux expecting Linux to be like Windows. And as the title of this video says, Linux is not Windows. And it doesn't work like Windows. And it doesn't owe anything to Windows. And it's not apologetic that it's not like Windows. Linux is Linux. And you have to take Linux on its own terms. So if you're somebody who is brand new to Linux and you've just stumbled across this video, I'm really glad you're here. If you're somebody who is part of the community and you are trying to help other people get started with Linux, maybe some of what I have to pass along here will help you as well. Or this could all be a colossal waste of time. Who knows? You'll just have to stick around and wait and see. So let's get into our first concept here. I think this is very important to put out right up front. If you go to EzeeLinux.com, you will see this exact slide up there on the page. And it says, Linux is a community, not a product. You can use it for free, but it is not a free ride. It would not be what it is today without conscientious users who contribute to the projects and buy from companies that embrace Linux. So this is a very important concept to understand. If you are coming from a proprietary system like Windows or Mac, then people tend to think of those in terms of large corporations and products. And the problem with that is that when they go into the forums to try and get help, they approach it with an attitude of this piece of garbage doesn't work and how stupid it is. Now, if you're dealing with Windows or Mac, that's pretty common. People like to vent at the man. They have to do that. It just makes them feel better. But when you come into a Linux forum with that attitude, you are kind of pissing all over the community when you do that. And people don't take to it very well, because everybody who is using Linux by choice. And we tend to be rather passionate about the ethical reasons why we use Linux or the technical reasons why we use Linux. So don't come into a forum and start, ranting about how Linux is stupid and it should be more like this and it should act like Windows, because it's not going to win you any friends. You have to realize that this is developed by the community for the community, and a lot of the people who participate in the forums are also people who develop bits and pieces of the system. So let's say that you take Ubuntu and you load it on your computer and you're looking at it. You're not looking at Ubuntu. You're looking at thousands of people who contributed to different products that Canonical, the company that distributed Ubuntu, put together to form an operating system that they're calling Ubuntu. So all the little icons on the desktop, the little applets, every one of those goes back to a person who is volunteering their time or working for very little money to create this. It's a labor of love. And you must have respect for that when you go asking questions. It is okay to go ask a question if you don't know. But you are expected in most forums to have done your research first, that you have tried your hardest to find out about what you're asking about. And if you're stumped, somebody will help you. But if it's really obvious that you come into a forum and you haven't taken the time to even Google it to try and figure out what you're talking about, you're not going to get a good response because people don't have time for that. People who volunteer in forums, they are eager to help, but they want to help people who want to help themselves too. So these are all things to keep in mind. So let's go ahead and get into the comment which I received this morning, and I want to read it to you paragraph by paragraph, and then I'll comment on what the person said, because it's a psychological state of mind that's really obvious. I am not going to share the person's name or their YouTube handle, but I have left the comment up, so if you want to go find it, you can. But I'm just going to spotlight this here for what it is. So, the comment is, I am building a new computer, and I need a dual boot system. Well, that's your first problem right there. We'll talk about that in a minute. As I have to use some Windows-only programs professionally, I work in the audio-video industry too. Well, guess what? So do I, and I have to use some Windows programs these days, and I have a separate Windows machine that has nothing on it but work, and that's how I deal with that. I want Linux Mint as my other OS. Well, there's another problem right there. I have 3 drives, a fast M2 MME drive for the OS, an SSD SATA drive for high-performance apps, and a fast access data, and a large mechanical drive for storage and less demanding apps. No one in the Linux community can tell me how to do this simple task in Linux, so let's stop there before we move on. First of all, if you are learning Linux, I do not recommend setting up a dual boot with Linux. Unless you are very familiar with how bootloaders work, how partitions are laid out on hard drives, and how file systems are mounted, then I would not recommend doing that, because dual boots can be very tricky, especially when dealing with Windows 10. And you can end up with a bricked system that neither Linux nor Windows will boot, and if you don't know exactly how to recover from that, you're going to be in a world of trouble. And I can tell you for sure that this person who is writing this does not understand those things, and he does not need to be setting up a dual boot. I do not recommend dual boots. I think the best way to learn how to use Linux is to take a computer, get a used computer, a cheap little laptop, whatever, load Linux on it, and take the time to play around with it, figure out how the system works, and keep all of your production stuff, your main stuff, on your Windows or your Mac machine or whatever you're currently using. Well, those are your 2 choices, so it would be one of the 2. But don't try and mix Linux and Windows right off the bat, because it can get you in a lot of trouble. You really need to take your time with Linux and approach it slowly. Remember what we said at the beginning of the video. Linux is not Windows. So he says he wants Linux Mint as his other OS, and then he says he has 3 drives in the computer. Well, to do what he wants to do doesn't work the same way in Linux as it would in Windows, which is probably why no one in the Linux community can tell me how to do that. I'm using his words there. Because you're trying to apply the way Windows handles things to a system that doesn't work that way. In Linux, you don't decide where your applications are installed. The system decides that, and it puts it in appropriate directories, usually /user/bin, which lives on the same drive usually as your operating system. You can, in the installation process, very easily break out your home directory where all your personal data is stored on another drive. And you can also have another drive in the system that you mount somewhere else. You could, within the file system, create a new mount point. Then you could call that data, for instance, and then you could mount your large drive. There are many, many different ways to do what you're trying to do. So maybe the reason why you're so confused is because you're not taking the time to learn the basics of how the system works, which is why you need to install it in a separate computer or even in a virtual machine and break it several times. Get in there and play with it. Learn the basics before you start thinking, well, I'm going to create this big elaborate system. You don't have the know-how to do that just yet. So let's roll on. I would like to be able to use the same sort of organization for Linux apps and data according to the application demands. Well, it doesn't work that way. I mean, we just covered that. This is not how it works. Apps in Linux, first of all, I mean, it's overkill what he's talking about anyway. I mean, if he makes his root directory with his OS that that M2 drive, and then he's got a fast SSD for his data, that's going to be one fast system. And Linux is faster than Windows anyway. But anyway, I am about to give up on being able to do so. Well, that's probably a good idea since it doesn't work that way. Every Linux for Noob video, article, etc. I have seen starts off with, "This is so easy, a caveman can do it," but within 2 minutes is making assumptions and throwing about arcane knowledge, Linux knowledge, that makes it impossible for new people to follow. Well, whose fault is that? It's your fault. It's not the person making the video's fault. I know for a fact that the video that this was posted on is pretty straightforward about how it works, and I go through and explain it as best I can. But obviously, you are missing some very basic things here that you need to go off and learn about before you attempt to manipulate the system this way. You really have to start from scratch, okay? It just seems like the average Linux instructor really has no idea how the average Joe or Jill who did not spend their summer vacation teaching themselves C++ actually needs from a computer. What they actually need, I guess, is what he means there. Well, that's not true. I mean, that is one of the things that I have focused on this channel for a long time is trying to help people who want to do regular stuff that you would do on commercial systems or proprietary systems, whatever you want to call them, that you can do it on Linux. So that's a big focus here. The thing that a lot of people don't see, and this particular line brings up, is the fact that what you need from a computer may not be what I need from a computer, and it might not be what Bob down the street needs from a computer. And a lot of people who use computers for a very long time come up with very specific workflows, and they don't want to change it. And this person who wrote this is obviously somebody just like that. They want an exact way of running the system, and they're not open to new ideas. Anyway, as a result, Linux is doomed to remain a side cult, and people who hate that Microsoft reads our emails, follows us through the web, and sells our privacy to the highest bidder are doomed to remain with them. Not because Linux isn't an awesome and acceptable alternative, but because no one has the ability to teach old Windows and Mac users how to even do the basics. No, it's attitude. It's attitude. Stop. It's your attitude. If you come into it expecting it to be something that it's not, if you have an attitude that you are too good to learn something new, if you don't realize that it is a learning curve that takes time, that it's not something that's going to come to you in a day or two, you're going to end up being very frustrated. People who do well with Linux, regardless of their experience with computers in the past, are those who realize that it is a journey and not a destination. They realize that there is a lot to learn, and they're going to have to start with the basics and work up, and they're going to have to take it very slow. And unfortunately, the more you know, the harder it is to learn. I would much rather work with a 10-year-old kid than somebody like this person who's writing this comment. And the reason why is because they don't have any preconceived notions, and they learn very quickly. My son is a very good example with that. He is becoming an Ubuntu power user. He runs his games. He's got a gaming PC. He is learning how to do this, and it's come to him very naturally. And when he has to sit down in front of some other system, he feels lost. He doesn't know what to do. But if you set him down in front of Ubuntu, which he has been using literally since he was 5, and he's now 13, he doesn't think twice about it. He's customized his desktop. He's got all his games set up the way he wants to. He customizes his games. It's pretty amazing. And he was not very hard to teach, but somebody who has worked with other computers for 30 years, they're the hardest to teach. And our person goes on and says, sorry for the rant, but though I have had computers since I had a Texas Instrument TI-99, I have never been so frustrated as I have been trying to learn the basics of usability of Linux from people professing to teach basics to new users in the Linux community. Mount and then unmount. We don't have to mount and unmount drives in Windows. What does that even mean? And yet, if these things don't happen, it is bound to result in frustration and failure. Well, once again, something is not wrong just because you don't understand it. It is not Linux's fault if you don't understand how the system works. It simply is not. It's your fault. You need to go off. Okay, so here is a very specific thing right here. It says mount and unmount. That is one of the things that makes Linux very different from Windows. Windows will take any storage device you plug into the system, internally or externally, and arbitrarily assign a letter to it and mount it to the system so you can see it. That's not very secure. You can take a Windows system and have it mount something the way it's done in Unix and Linux systems, which means to make a device appear within the directory structure. You can do that. Most people who run Windows don't do it that way. But the reason why Linux mounts and unmounts is because it is the most secure and the most flexible way of doing it. And it gives the user a great deal of power that you don't have in Windows. The only thing in Windows that you can do if you're going to keep drive letters is maybe figure out what letter you want it to be, and it starts to get complicated. Whereas you can have a Linux system that has many network shares and lots of devices and partitions that are mounted throughout the file system, and it's all seamless. And as far as the end users are concerned, they don't care where the data comes from as long as they get it. And it's called obfuscation, and it's done on purpose. It's part of the system. It adds a layer of security and flexibility that you do not get in Windows unless you really know the Windows system and you really are willing to go down into the system and do some different things. You can make it do it, that's what I'm trying to say, but it's not native as it is in Linux. And so what you need to do, if you come across something that you don't understand, like mounting and unmounting, then stop and go online and use friendly Mr. Google to actually go and learn the basics of how this works and why it works the way it does. And then you are armed with that information. And then you can come back to my video or somebody else's video, and then you can learn how to do what you're trying to do. Okay? Don't blame the teacher if you're too stupid or stubborn to follow along. It's not their fault. You did not come to class prepared. Anyway, I watched this video hoping to learn how to utilize various drives for different purposes in Linux, and I still have no clue how to do that. No one in the community can tell me how to do the simplest task in Windows on Linux, because Windows isn't Linux, and Linux isn't Windows. That's the only reason people aren't migrating to Linux in droves. Well, I hate to break this to you, but people are migrating to Linux in droves. By the thousands every day. It may not be showing up in the national media, and you might not be hearing about it, but I've been watching this for a long time now, and people are migrating to Linux. I guess the answer is to get a 50 gigabyte spinner drive, install Linux whenever I need to check email and surf the web and write documents on it, like my old 38625, because putting a high performance video editing app on one drive and a scratch drive on another drive is evidently impossible. Well, it is absolutely possible what you want to do. It's just that you don't have the skills to do it yet, and you obviously need to go back and learn the basics. So yes, and I have said this from day one, the best way to learn Linux is to go get that 50 gigabyte spinner and put it in that little computer and use it to check email, and then take the time to learn and experiment on that machine before you expect to be able to do big things with a big machine like you're talking about. You've got to walk before you can run. And in some cases, you'll have to crawl before you can walk. And that is the problem that you're dealing with. It's not Linux. It's not the people trying to teach you how to use Linux. It's your attitude that you are bringing to Linux. And attitude is everything when you're trying to learn Linux. The people who do well on Linux are those who see it as an adventure, they see it as a challenge, and they like to learn. And they're willing to take the time to learn how to use the system and get the most out of it, and do not expect instant results, and especially do not expect it to be like what they're used to, because it's not. So that is the point of this video. And my response to this person was very short and sweet. I simply said that a lot of I said attitude is everything when you're trying to learn Linux, and if you approach it too quickly, you're going to get frustrated. The information is out there. Basically, Linux is not Windows, and it's going to take time to learn it. And I'm expanding on that in this video. And there are a lot of people out there like that, which is, sometimes I can talk them down. There was one fellow who kind of came to me, and he had a bit of a tude, and he was kind of hard to deal with. And then I kind of worked with him real slow. He was, although he had this sort of attitude at first, he kind of caught on to the fact that, oh, wait a minute, this is different. And now he's got Linux doing everything he needs him to do. I mean, he started out sounding like this guy. But then I was able to work with this fellow. He was, this guy's saying, ugh, I give up. Well, goodbye, see you later. I mean, if that's your attitude, please go back to Windows or buy yourself a Mac. It's not, sure, I'd like to see people come to Linux. I'd like to see new people in the community. I'd like to see more people using it. Absolutely. But don't bring your attitude. We don't want that. We have enough of that inside the community already. We don't need it from outside. So if you're going to bring that with you, that's fine. Give up. Walk away. Bye-bye. See you later. I don't want to deal with you. And a lot of the other people who run forums and try and help people in the community don't want to deal with it as well. And it's just that simple. So anyway, I have no idea what's going to happen with this person. Maybe he'll go off and think about it a little while and come back with a fresh attitude. That tends to happen on occasion. And there are some people that I thought would never learn how to use Linux that did, so I always hold out hope. So guys, I hope that helps a little bit. I mean, I hope that I have shared some positive things along the way. I'm trying to turn a negative into a positive with this video for sure. You can learn Linux. It's not hard. It's just a matter of being willing to start at the bottom and work your way to the top. You're going to start over. It doesn't matter what you already know. What you already know doesn't apply. It's a different system. Your feedback is always welcome, and you can check us out at EzeeLinux.com. We have EzeeTalk, which is our very own forum, which we run from the OS on down. It's free, secure, and fun. Please be sure to give EzeeLinux a like on Facebook if you are a Facebook user as well. Always lots of cool things happening over there. And I am doing this other job these days. As I have said, I am on the air at b999fm.com in the evenings. And so I'm going to go ahead and put a link in this description if you want to check that out. Last video I was talking about that, but I'll throw the link in this one as well. So thank you for watching, and we will do this again soon.